Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? I feel like it's been forever. Welcome back to Teamworks. So, something exciting, we're moving into a new phase in one of my personal favorites, and that is self-esteem and healthy relationships. So self-esteem and healthy relationships. So keep that in mind. You're going to be working on these kind of activities for the next few weeks, right? The self-esteem and healthy relationships. So while in this phase, our introduction here that we put on all our little handouts is to allow for the opportunity for students to identify and celebrate their positive attributes and build their confidence, all right? So keep that in mind. Celebrate their positive attributes so that they can build their confidence. Now, I want to say this before we go any further. We want to make sure you stay away from the kind of, being a therapist or a counselor or whatnot. That's not the purpose of this phase. The purpose of this phase is for the kids themselves to identify their own strengths, and you be a cheerleader in the background. If they're having a hard time finding it, maybe you're helping them identify that and just cheerleading them and celebrating them and just really highlighting all those great qualities. This is a very critical time of their development. They're changing physically and hormonally, and there's a lot going on, and in this awkward phase, their self-esteem might be a little low as they're trying to adjust to all those changes. However, we can still find all those positive qualities about ourselves, or as we're developing, maybe someone's getting a growth spurt and how great it is to be tall, and so on and so forth. So just something to think about. So remember, no counselors, no therapists, just cheerleaders, all right? So let me break it down a little further, just to kind of give you a little more understanding about self-esteem. So what is self-esteem, you might ask? What is self-esteem? We might all think we know what self-esteem is, but we probably do. But just to break it down for you as you're working with the kids, just think about this. Self-esteem at the end of the day, simply defined, is how much you value yourself. Again, how much you value yourself, the pride you have in yourself, and then at the end of the day, how worthwhile you feel. All right? Pretty simple. Three simple concepts here. How much you value yourself, the pride you have in yourself, and how worthwhile you feel. That's what makes up self-confidence or self-esteem. Now, continued here, the way you feel about yourself affects how you act. That's probably very true. So when we have a down day, we're probably not the nicest people to be around. When we're having a good day, everybody probably wants to be in our company. So just something to think about. So your self-esteem plays in how you feel about yourself, which then affects your actions, all right? Now, what do we want to do in this phase? We really, again, as I said to you earlier, celebrate positive attributes and qualities. And here's the outcome. Here's what's so great about that if we do a good job of that. When you have high self-esteem, look at all the great perks. You make friends more easily. Yeah, we all like making friends, right? Good friends. You're more in control of your behavior. Yes, this is great to start getting the kids to think about their self-esteem so that they're more in control of their behavior. Being in control of your behavior probably will make a kid be able to say no when it's appropriate, right? When that time comes and those negative influences come their way, if they feel good about themselves, they're going to be able to say no. And that all comes from having good self-esteem, believing in yourself, right? In your actions. And then last but not least, if you have high self-esteem, you're more likely to enjoy your life more. Isn't that the truth? That is the truth at the end of the day. When you feel good about yourself, you really enjoy life. So just some things to think about as we move into this phase, how we can celebrate and cheerlead and champion our youth to reach into their untapped potential and feel good about themselves. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to kick off this phase with some really fun activities. I really like them. They were really fun. But our first activity is going to be Power Animal. And I don't know if you guys know about power animals, but if you get a minute, Google them. But Shaman used to use them back in the day, and you would pick a power animal and then take on the spirit of that power animal, and hopefully that would be something that you would strive for, embody, and embrace, and live your life in the spirit of that power animal, right? So your kids are going to choose a power animal and take on their spirit, and hopefully we're going to find some untapped potential. We're going to unleash, if I may, animal, unleash, get it? Their potential, all right? So here's some examples. Here's a giraffe, which is not a power animal, but I thought it was really cool. And here's a rhino, which was also also not one of the power animals, but we thought it was really cool. And I just wanted to give you an example of what, you know, the outcome looks like, and then how do we get there? I'm going to show you really quickly. So first and foremost, you tell the kids about power animals and taking on their spirit and how it's a Native American kind of cultural kind of thing. And then we're going to give you a list of power animals. For example, there's a beaver on here, and beavers are known for being builders, right? So a beaver works in cooperation to build their home. So maybe you got a student who's a great team player, likes being on a team, likes how it feels to be on a team and contributing. So maybe this student's going to be like, I want to be a beaver, right? Or maybe another one is a cheetah, because cheetahs are, you know, they run really fast and they're very focused, so they're known for their speed and focus, especially when they're hunting, right? So maybe you got a student who wants to be the cheetah, and the cheetah, they can embody the spirit of accomplishing our goals with speed and focus. We like that, accomplishing goals with speed and focus. Maybe you've got somebody who wants to be a mountain lion, which they're known for their leadership. So to be true to oneself, allowing neither fear of responsibility nor the jealousy or insecurities of others to divert one from one's path. Wow, that's deep. I like that one. I should have made a lion. But anyway, just some examples of power animals and spirits that they can embody. So what are we going to give them? So believe it or not, we got here by these following materials. Popsicle sticks. All right, you'll get some popsicle sticks. Now they can manipulate these how they want. They can snap them in half, break them or whatever. But depending on their animal, they can make arms, they can make legs, they can make antlers, they can make ears, whatever it is, they can use the popsicle sticks. Then we're gonna give you some toothpicks, some good old household toothpicks. And then with the toothpicks again, they can build off the toothpicks, you know, build little body parts or whatnot, and then, you know, stick it into the base of something. So like for example, this rhino, the base of the rhino, really just a good old-fashioned piece of paper, and then there was a piece of aluminum foil that was wrapped around it, and then that became the base of the rhino. And then from there, for example, you can use toothpicks, break off, and then stab in and create some legs, just like so. There you go, there you go. Leg doesn't want to go in. But anyway, but there's some legs, and then, you know, you can have your little animal legs, and then you can, little by little, and then just build off of that. And then we put some tape in there if they want some tape just to, you know, add or, you know, help seal some of the legs or the different appendages that they're making. But just a little example, and then, you know, they can wrap that in. As you see, you start to create the legs, and then, you know, from there they can build a head and so on and so forth. And there's my rhino. All right, so anyway, just some examples of, you know, the creativity, you know, where they can go with picking their power animal. All right, so that's power animal. Again, self-esteem, see? Picking a positive animal with a great spirit, with some great attributes, and then striving to be that, and creating this power animal that they can take home. Oh, and last but not least, I forgot. We'll also give you a Sharpie so they can decorate. I started to put little spots on my giraffe and create some eyes. But anyway, just to give you an example how they can take it to another level. Really fun, I love it. Got into that one. All right, the next one is H2T, it's all about me. H2T, it's all about me. Those of you who watch America's Next Top Model might know what H2T stands for, but in case you don't, I'm a reality show junkie, yes, I admit it. But just in case you don't, H2T stands for head to toe, right? Head to toe. All right, so they're going to do an activity where we're going to give them a handout, and it might be too far to see, but we're going to give them a handout of a body, of a person, and they can dress it however they see fit. Maybe you've got a young person who wants to be a police officer one day, or a judge, or whatnot, so maybe they want to dress that person up in that kind of attire. But the whole goal of this activity is to really find positive attributes and qualities from head to toe, all right? Positive attributes or qualities, values. Again, this is that adjustment period. They're also starting to, you know, choose those belief systems that they're going to follow, choose those values that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. So that's what this is so great about this activity. So they'll get their person, it'll be a lot larger, and then they can dress them. Mine has a t-shirt, it's got some abs and some jeans. But just to give you some examples, like, you know, coming out of my head, I put brain, you know, brain for being a good problem solver, ears for being a good listener, mouth, I enjoy public speaking if you haven't gathered that already. Strong shoulders, good friend to lean on, I think I'm a good friend. Hands, creative, as you can see. Let's see here. Stomach, I gave myself a 6-pack, don't laugh, I really don't have one, but I want one. But anyway, stomach, strong core when things get tough. I have my feet, because good at sports, because I run really fast. This little shorty can run. And then last but not least, I failed to put my little Nike check mark. But I love Nikes. Almost all my shoes are Nike, believe it or not. I don't wear them to work. Isn't that odd? I only wear dress shoes to work, but I always wear Nikes. But Nikes always remind me of not to be afraid. Don't be afraid of anything. Just do it. And that's my head to toe. It's all about me. So again, you guys, remember what the next session is all about. It's about self-esteem. And I forgot about the question of the day, which is a really good question of the day. Of all the nice things that someone can truthfully say about you, all right? Of all the nice things that someone can truthfully say about you, which one would make you feel the best? Think about that. Think about that yourself. And then remember, at the end of the day, we want to build their self-esteem so when they grow up and they become our senior, they enjoy their life more. So it's Will signing out.